Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of the Endgame. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we are picking up with the conversation between Elena and Val. And it is this whole situation of Val not wanting to believe it. It's like, you're trying to mess with me, you're being cruel. But she's like, I would never do that to you. You think I would try and hurt you in that way? It's just to show you that we are both the same. And as the episode progresses, we really get to understand what she means about. Obviously, it's what was taken from her by other people, wanting justice, wanting closure. It's why she's doing all that she's doing. Not just exposing the corruption of these people, but it's also because these people, well, for one, it's to show these are high-ranking people that are corrupted, that this system is corrupted from the top down, that there are so many terrible people involved, and they're working with even more terrible people, the Bellocks, who are the ones who kill the people she cares about. They played their role, so she wants revenge in many different ways, and she's trying to shine a light on all the darknesses in this world, even if she has to go about it a bit of a dark way. You know, two wrongs don't make a right, but maybe in her mind it's like, yeah, but eventually you take enough wrong turns, you might circle back to some extent. I guess is how you could look at it from a metaphorical standpoint. But Val tries to pretend like it doesn't bother her, but it does. I even thought that was such a heartbreaking thing. Well, she ends up ripping up the address and everything. I'm like, even if you ripped it up, you probably have it off, and you probably memorized it off the top of your head. But then, like, the bullets ripped into her building. I was like, oh, is Isaac sending people after you because you know that he's still, like, what's up with that? And it's like, oh no, it was her like having a nightmare about the day her mom died, but it wasn't her as a little girl; it was her as an adult being there. And wake up, she never tore up the address. She couldn't bring herself to do it because it's like, she tried to be like, no, it's not that. I'm not going to buy into it, but she does. I was curious whether I guess she had never seen Isaac Bigby before, because when she sees him later on, because she's not sure, but she has this feeling, and luckily Anthony's there to be like, right, let's go grab a coffee. I know how complicated this is for you. I've looked into him, and I will look deeper, but I don't want you to do something you regret. And she's like, what'd you think I was going to do? He's like, you aren't going to do it, so it doesn't matter. She's like, you think I was going to kill him. It's like, let's even prevent that idea from even crossing your mind. Let's get out of here, Val, please. And they leave. But then everything else starts trickling out throughout the episode. And I like that main, obviously, the main theme of this entire thing is corruption. It is closure. It is revenge. All of these words tie together in this story, especially with the judge who the director is pretty close with. In fact, they have history, and that's why he's like, at the very least, Elena, like, she's going to strike by, it might not be someone you directly know, but like that you're going to get sideswiped at some point in time. So trust me on this and be careful. But she's like, I have nothing to hide. I'm like, people have said that over and over again, and those who claim to have nothing to hide have that much more to hide. So you're like, yeah, Elena isn't doing this just for shits and giggles. There's a reason behind it. I even love later on he's talking, because he's so in defense of her, like, Carolyn, she's not nothing. She's good. She's always been a good person. And I love Elena's analogy of corruption it doesn't start off with a bang. It's a whimper, and it is like slowly but surely, like. And I love that plays into the theme of what why Val is the person she is, because her mom taught her from a very young age about corruption. That the fact is, it's like, Mom, I told this tiniest lie. It's like, yes, but that tiny lie, you'll eventually get to the point that you're like, well, I got away with this lie. It's okay. Nothing bad happened. You'll start justifying the next lie. And the next lie is going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And then eventually you'll start distrusting people because you're like, I'm lying all the time. So how do I know people aren't lying as well? And it's like, that does a terrible thing. That eats away at your soul. That's no way to live. And so I thought that was such a beautiful thing, and how that ties into this, because it's like, right, it just takes off with one small bad action can eventually grow, because you do a lot more. You'll eventually kind of justify, like, well, this was okay, well, this was okay, and this was okay, and even then you'll cover up your corruption, anything terrible that you've done, with more terrible stuff. So it just constantly builds, and that ends up being what Caroline went through. But despite everything, the director thinks he knows her. And I love even Elena's like, she's bad. In fact, she may even be the worst of them. But the director doesn't want to believe that. He's even telling Val, approach this from the perspective of she's innocent. Because it turns out the guy that took her in this episode, his name is Jamie. He was one of the people she put away. Apparently he murdered like someone related to a gang or whatever. And so there was an eyewitness, but the moment Anthony and Val started looking deeper into it, it turns out it's not so open and shut because, like, right. And once again, Elena has the groundwork laid out that where the van ended up getting left off, the van they used to kidnap the judge, it turns out that first it led to where Isaac lived to represent all that he lost. His wife, his children. Well, it might not even been his wife, but it was definitely like his children. Like his family pretty much abandoned him the moment when he was found guilty, they left. Then it led to the place that the witness who saw everything worked, but it turns out that's a front. Then they go to where the witness lived, and it turns out, wait, there's no way he could have seen the crime go down from where this position of this apartment is that he supposedly lived. I was like, ooh. And so we find out more about what the judge is really into and why Elena calls her the worst. Because it turns out she was paid off to cover up the Bellick's crime. She sent innocent people to jail knowing they were innocent. She was getting paid off to basically cover up. Because it also ties back to that journalist that ended up dying, that reporter dude killed. It turns out the place that, the storage unit, that place, she owns part of it or something like that, so she has a connection to it. So it's like, right, you're deeply connected, and once again, that's why Elena calls her the worst, because it's like you're sending innocent people to jail to cover up their crimes, and it seems like it's for monetary reasons too. And the director was completely shook when he heard that. He's like, why'd you do it? Like, what did it start? Like, was it really all for money? Did it start with not with a bang, but with a whimper? And she's like, I can't believe you believe any lies. Like, I said that out of duress. Like, I was being held hostage. I was being threatened to, like, be thrown out of, like, 12-foot-story building. I was actually surprised that, like, they landed on a fire escape or whatever. I thought what was going to happen is there was going to be, like, some cushioning down way below. Like, either they're going to fall in a trash can or there was something that was going to be laid out below. Because Jamie was, like, ready. He's like, I have nothing left to live for. Because what's a few more years on a life sentence? He's like, I just wanted to clear my name. But it doesn't matter at the end because my children are gone. Like, I can never get them back. I can never get my grandmother back because she died of a broken heart because of what you put us through. You sent me to jail for something I didn't do. And not just me, 25 other people you did this to. You ruined so many lives. And it's like, and you have the audacity. Like, the fact is, it makes it even worse that you show no remorse for it. Because that's why I was almost wondering the moment, like, the director left. I thought what was going to happen is, like, okay, she's going to have a smile, like, hi, hey, when you leave. And then kind of like that smile disappears. It's like, no, she went straight back to work. I'm like, that makes it even worse that she's like, yeah, I got court in the morning. I'm like, is that another innocent person you're sending to jail? It's like, holy crap. Like, you didn't seem like you batted an eyelash. At least the last dude from last episode, the reason why he's working with Elena, he held remorse. You know? Because he kind of essentially paid for the hit on Sergey's family. So, of course, like, he's going to... The guilt ate away at him. He seems like he's the only one that's actually guilty of what he did. Everyone else is just so nonchalant. Once again, being defensive, like, oh, yeah, I did this thing. Like, even, you know, because even he eventually admitted, because he couldn't admit from the beginning, like, how deep of a tie he was to it. Because then that probably would have kept Val and them having more of an eye on him. But, man, that's crazy. Like, that he seems like the only one that seems remorseful. And what did Caroline say? She's like, you're going to pay for this. You're going to regret this. It's like, oh, boy. Because even the lady that got arrested in episode 2 was her name Bradbury. Like, even she tried to play that card, too. Like, oh, let me retire, clear name and all that. And it's like, no, I'm going to arrest you. Because she's like, oh, the public embarrassment, you'll suffer for this. And Caroline's like, oh, I'm going to come for your job and everything. And it's like, wow. It's like, no, you gotta still play innocent. Like, oh, you're gonna pay for this mistake, but it's also like you're gonna pay for busting me for the terrible stuff I've done. And I'm curious to see what interactions between the director and Elena are gonna be like going forward, because she kept pushing that component. Because I think for her, it is a thing of like, right, this is someone that you cared about. It's like, because she tries to make it seem like they didn't have a deep history. It's like, oh, did you not, like, before law school, like, go get together? It's like, all right, fine, good job on you did your digging. But I think it was the point of how far you're willing to go for this woman. The fact is, because I took someone that was personal to you, now you're starting to feel the pressure, and now you're lashing out. What are you doing? You're letting Doke off his leash, which I think was personally a bad idea. You're talking about the guy that's failed time and time again, who feels like he needs a win. Last episode was a bit of a win for him. Granted, we also know that that's not the case because we still haven't circled back to it, but I guess no one's checked on the gold since then, so they might come into it later on like, actually, it's all melted. So that's going to blow up in Doke's face again, but the man has too much to prove. He's too... I don't know if egotistical would be the right word, but there's just so much in him that feels like, no, I'm the top dog. Like, I have to prove myself because I am. He seems, like I said, egotistical and narcissistic don't seem like they might be the right word, but there's an element to that where he just thinks like he's so good. Like, yes, he's made his mistakes and he's trying to be a better, but it's like he rubs you the wrong way. I mean, from the very beginning, he's been such a dick. That is like, he just takes every opportunity as long as it benefits him. He comes off self-centered is what it is. And the fact that he seems like a bull, like rushing ahead like a bull, like not stopping. A recent example of that would be like Batman from The Batman. It's like a raging bull, like really like steamrolling ahead. He kind of has that very element to him in my from my perspective. So the way he's trying to lure the lady out from the second bank, Louis' girlfriend who's trying to propose to him. But Doke is like, right, we're going to set up snipers, and the director gave the A-OK. So when the time comes, it's like, right, we're pretending like, oh, Louis, like, you either do this, or if you any sleight of hand, I'm gonna flush this ring down the toilet in front of him. Because I love that he's like, despite your craziness and stuff like that, I admire your devotion to this crazy planet. And I love Louis was just like, yeah, the feeling's not mutual, but thank you. Because I guess it's like, right, I know who you are, Doke. I know what kind of person you are, and you're part of a corrupt, like, you're helping basically continue a corrupt system. But also it's, because it's like, I guess in probably Louis' perspective, it's like, right, I'm on the right side of history in this. We might have to do some bad, but it's for the greater good. You're helping continue the status quo of what's like, you're so far down the rabbit hole, you don't know what's up or down anymore. I feel like that's probably their perspective on someone like Doke, who refuses to open his eyes. At least the director's opening his eyes to some extent, and the whole point is to open Val's eyes to everything that's going on. So I thought that was fascinating. But they had the whole thing set up. They're going to walk Louis through, and the moment his girlfriend pops her head out, they're going to aim for her. The fact is they missed kind of made me go like, why is that though? Could there be someone on the team, on the squad that actually works for Elena? Because it's like, how would you miss that shot? I'm glad you missed it. But there were other shots fired around, and even then it's like, holy crap, you were firing like hostages were nearby and everything? That's garbage of you. But then later on, Doke is like, oh, yo, those were like fake rounds. They were blanks. The only real live ammunition was the one that was aimed for your head. And it's like, wow, we actually underestimated you, and we shouldn't have. You are actually, pretty sly, but it's also like, that probably plays into why they don't like him either. But the moment Louis and her got away and they're celebrating, he's like, oh, we got away. And she's like, he's like, oh, there's no such, you said from the beginning there was no such thing as a perfect plan. This seems pretty perfect. She's like, stop it, you'll jinx it. And I was like, Doke is going to be nearby. I was like, the freaking ring is a tracker, isn't it? And lo and behold, the ring is a tracker. So, because I love that Doke was like, that sneaky bastard took the ring while my back was turned. But that was all part of, like, Doke can be sneaky too. So it's like moments you're like, oh man, you're actually really good. If it wasn't for your terrible, like, self-centered personality, I think you'd have the entire package. But you kind of you rub me the wrong way. I think you kind of rub everyone the wrong way because you seem like such a dick. But he's like enjoying and reveling in all of it. And they left something behind before they left, but Doke was so preoccupied with his victory, he didn't notice. It turns out Jamie gets on the bus after they get off. And basically they transferred all like some money from Elena's account and turned it into crypto and gave it to him. It's 10 mil. Either Elena helped him track down what's left of his family to get them back. Because I don't think it was just a fresh start. It kind of is, but this way he will be clear. Even the director's like, right, looking for the fugitive Jamie, like, don't look too hard. So it does work out in the end. He was an innocent man. Granted, after everything he's gone through, he would have gone back to jail even with his name cleared. So it's just kind of like, no, the man did nothing wrong. He was a tool in a greater corrupt system, so, and a corrupt judge at that, so. I just thought that was so fascinating how that plays out. So, Louis and his girlfriend have been captured. On top of all of that, there's the other element to this episode where Owen and Sergey are waiting for their opportunity. Still got 4 more days for things to play out. Oh, cool. Home dude's out of the infirmary. And when he walks up to Sergey, he's like, yo, good thing. Oh, somebody poisoned me. I had to put like eye drops in. It's crazy, right? But everything's still according to plan, right? Sergey's like, yeah, it's all good. He's like, yeah, everything seems normal. But the person he's talking to is a lifer who's in there for arson. And Sergey's like, right. He found a friend who has nothing to lose. So it's like, right. He has some idea about their plans because Sergey said like 2 weeks, so he's not giving him a real timetable. So he's probably gonna be like, all right, I've got 2 weeks to, like, Sergey thinks I don't know he was a part of this. It's like, right, I just happened to like pass out after I drunk something after drinking with him, and it's like, okay, so he's gonna worm and manipulate this situation to his benefit. I don't know whether he's gonna aim for going after Sergey or whether he does truly believe that. Either that or he does believe Sergey's story, and it's like, all right, we're going to get out of this together, and I'm going to use this arson dude as a means to an end. Like, he's going to end up screwing up everything. Sergey's still like, the best and permanent solution is to kill him, but whether it's just Owen being like, right, pragmatic about, right, that's going to cause issues of its own, like he had brought up before, like, you'll get locked up, and it's like, all we need is this week to go by with no issues. There's that, or it could just be Owen is also, it could be from the nature of like, I don't want innocent blood on my hand. Like, there's terrible, like, I'm already part of this plan because it's for the greater good. It's for Val's sake in the long run as well. So I'm gonna go along with it, but I don't want any extra blood spilled when unnecessary. You know, so. Because he's probably not a great person, but he's also still innocent. It's not like he's a terrible human being, at least not that we know of. So, especially because him and Sergey go back. So, he's not a bad guy per se. So, it's like, why would I want him dead? And even if he wasn't, it's just, maybe that's just not Owen's style. So, maybe it's one or the other. Maybe it's a combination of two that he doesn't want to go down the murdering the dude route. So, but Val sadly learned some information that the reason why she couldn't find Isaac Bigby is because he was a witness. So the government swept him up. And so that's why she's like, right, the deeper connection between me and Irina. Terrible people, like a corrupt government, is what led to the people that was going to become her family is gone. Once again, 108 men, women, and children were killed in that bombing. And also someone corrupt protected the man who killed my mom. So Anthony's begging her not to go, but she's like, I'm not going to go. But she couldn't shake it. She couldn't sleep well. So she confronts Isaac Bigby. He's like, you killed my mom, who was the light of my world. The fact is, so many people were jealous of my mom because of the way she did my hair and just like how good of a mom I had. Like Val, the reason why Val is the good-natured person she is despite losing her mom at such a young age, you know, and that's the sad thing. She was in this position all those years ago after, like, when she was older. I think when she was 18, she was going to go find Isaac Bigby and kill him, but if it wasn't for, luckily now she had Anthony to kind of pull her back. Back then she had Owen, but you know where things stand, and that's the thing with everything with Owen that's going on, because they think Owen's the one that's contacting and directly with Elena, which, because obviously they still are in the dark about the whole Sergey thing, but now she kind of had Anthony to kind of try and pull her back, but she confronts the man and like, I'm not going to kill you, you're just pathetic. You disgust me. It's just like, you killed my mom and here you are. And does he show remorse? You could tell he's a little shaken because he's being confronted by his past. It's like, why do you get to just, but probably he didn't have long to talk about it, but I'm sure he'd be like, does it look like I'm living a good life? But it doesn't seem like you have any regrets. The only reason why you're sweating is because Valerie's here pushing you, but it doesn't, who knows if you have any regrets over what you've done in the past. And Val was going to walk away. Poor bastard died from a laced cigarette because Elena was like, no, I wanted to make sure you saw him die in front of you. It's like, oh, doesn't it feel good? Don't you finally have closure? But for her, it's like, doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to let him or you change who I am. Because she's like, right, you're so righteous. You should have just, you know, dealt with it yourself. So that's what I was curious about last episode. Whether Elena wanted Val to kill him or not? Which one would you prefer? And I think if she does want, because she needs Val to be a little bit more on the ruthless side when it comes to doing the right thing. Because I'm going to need you to be a certain way for my future plans. Like what I'm going to need you to do for me and what I can end up doing for you. We need to be kind of on the same wavelength, but we're not quite there yet. You're not willing to go as far as it needs to be, as far as you need to go for the sake of doing what is necessary. But for Val, it's like crossing that line would cross because her mom wouldn't want her to do that. And that was her explanation of Anthony. And I think that's also why she didn't do anything. Then she wanted to confront him. That would have been her closure. But it's like Elena never gave her a chance to end things on her own terms. Because I think Valerie making the choice of just walk away, she could have easily killed him, but she let the good nature, the good lessons her mom taught her about corruption and everything, that informed who she is now. That this man stole a light from your life. He kind of left you in this dark world by taking away your mom. But you are keeping your mom alive by keeping her life lessons alive. Being the person that she would be proud of, and your mom wouldn't be proud of you if you killed him. So I think that was a choice, and I guess to some extent Elena knew that would be the case, but also she didn't want Valerie to get her hands there. It's like, this way, no, I did it, so. But now it's like, oh, I wish I could have seen it, like you getting your justice, so it all works out in the end. But then the lights to the building go off, and at first, like, it's like, oh, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, looks like we're both in the dark, Valerie. So it's like, okay, so I guess the Bellocks, it's because Elena's going hard in the paint. They must know where she is. Because she's taken out 5 of their allies now, because one of them is on their side. Once again, there's still one more person in that picture. It's significant. The fact is, I said it the first time the picture was shown. It's like, that guy's face is hidden. It's significant. I'm sure Elena and them know who he is, but maybe the others don't. Or maybe he's even someone she doesn't know. That's going to be interesting to find out whether she knows his identity. But I'm assuming we're getting, very blacklist elements because where the task force was, where they were, people came for Red while he was locked up by the task force, like in the first season. If I remember correctly, that was like Berlin that set that all up, if I remember correctly. Peter Stormer. But I think that's what this is. I think the Bellocks are attacking. Maybe she'll be able to use this to her advantage because at least 2 of her people are here. Louis and his significant other. Obviously, those situations are settled, but let's not forget there's still quite a few banks that are still needing to be dealt with. So I think it's going to be like all hands on deck as this is like a strike because the Bellocks are coming to kill Elena. And maybe she'll use this opportunity to run, but she might not. Being here is probably it's like, right, this is all part of my plan. I need to be here, not just for my sake, not just for the sake of my plan, but for Valerie, because all of it's connected. So even when given the opportunity, Louis and his girlfriend might be able to escape, but Elena might end up staying for that purpose. So I did like the to be continued because it's like, right, like this is the first episode they've really done that because I guess this is kind of a 2-parter because it is a little bit more of a cliffhanger than any other episode. So I'm very, very excited to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.